Hey everybody, Ace Trenilium here. No doubt, as you've been playing through a Pokemon game at one time or another, you'll have come across a Pokemon and thought to yourself, much like I have, wait, should that Pokemon really be that type? Quite often we'll see a Pokemon and we'll wonder why it is or isn't a certain type. Sometimes looking at the Pokemon's origins will clear up the confusion, but other times looking at the background of the Pokemon will make its typing make even less sense. So today I'm going to bring you 10 Pokemon that I think are the wrong type. Oh, and please remember, this is purely hypothetical, so try not to get upset if you disagree with one of the entries on this list. Game Freak aren't exactly going to make Luxray a dark type just because some chump in a YouTube video says it's a good idea. Come on. Oh, and for your information, Luxray should never be a dark type. Remember, the dark type is known as the evil type in Japan, and nothing about Luxray suggests that it's evil. Zebstrika is more deserving of the dark type than Luxray because its Pokedex entry says that it's ill-tempered, but even that's a stretch. Anyway, I've got a list to get through, so let's jump in. Number 10. Speaking of Pokemon that don't deserve the dark type, when Grimer and Muck were revealed to have new forms in the Alola region that were part poison, part psychic, I thought it was a great idea. And what's more, I thought it was amazing that they'd given these Pokemon a unique type combination. And then I remembered that Drapion existed. Whoops. Now, I was planning to explain the reasons that people give for why Muck and Grimer should be dark types in Alola, but there's literally nothing to back up the change. Remember, as I've already said, the dark type is the evil type in Japan, and you're going to be reminded of that a lot in this video, by the way. Well, when it comes to Alolan Grimer and Alolan Muck, there's nothing in their Pokedex information to suggest that they are evil Pokemon. In fact, by working in the cities of Alola, eating garbage since there's no pollution, Muck and Grimer are actively helping society by disposing of humans' waste and making the environment a lot safer and more livable. Alolan Muck's Pokedex entry in Moon even says that it's unexpectedly quiet and friendly. Does that sound evil to you? Granted, it also says that if Muck doesn't eat for a while, it'll destroy its owner's furniture to eat that, but my Border Collie does that. And would you really call that face evil? Given their prevalence in cities in Alola, I'd have probably given Alolan Muck and Grimer the secondary type of Steel, or maybe even Fairy, since they're actually pretty nice. Number 9. Noctowl is a no-brainer. Well, actually, the fact that brain power is so prevalent in the Pokedex, which often references Noctowl's intellectual capabilities, is one of the main reasons that a lot of us think that it should be part Psychic type. On top of that, more than 40% of the moves that Noctowl learns by level up are Psychic type moves. Why is Game Freak teasing us like this? Chances are it's because Lugia turned out to be Psychic flying as well, and they didn't want to introduce a Pokemon with the same type as one of their newly introduced legendaries in the same generation. But hey, that's just a theory. In Game Freak's defense, they have tried to improve Noctowl. In Generation 7, they increased its special attack by 10 base power. Yep, that'll do it. Number 8. Another Pokemon that I feel should have been part Psychic is Butterfree. Part of this stems from me being a dumb kid, thinking that just because my Butterfree learned Confusion at level 12 in my first playthrough of Pokemon Blue, that it must somehow automatically be a Psychic type. Although, in 11-year-old Liam's defense, in Generation 1, Butterfree learned 2 Psychic type moves, Confusion and Psybeam by level up, could also learn Psychic by TM, and couldn't learn any Flying type moves. Partly because Gust was a normal type move back then. In fact, in Generation 7, Butterfree learns just as many Psychic type moves as it does Flying type moves, so there's not really any argument against it becoming a Psychic type. I guess the only real defense of it having Flying type is that it has wings, but that hasn't really stopped Beedrill, Venomoth or Flygon. Number 7. Speaking of Flygon, this is one of those Pokemon where I can completely understand why it has the typing it does. Flygon is based on certain species of dragonfly that are often referred to as sand dragons, and that explains the combination of ground and dragon perfectly. And no, I'm not about to suggest the flying type. Even though Flygon does have wings and it literally has the word fly in its name, the levitate ability already takes care of that. My suggestion is changing Flygon to a bug and dragon Pokemon. Mainly because we don't already have a bug dragon Pokemon, but also because Flygon is the best example of a Pokemon that simultaneously looks like a bug and looks like a dragon. Also, Flygon's been outshined by Garchomp, the superior ground and dragon Pokemon, ever since Generation 4 dropped. Something needs to change to give Flygon something that Garchomp just doesn't have, and becoming a bug dragon might just be what Flygon needs to shake things up. Number 6. When we talk about shaking things up, we can't forget about the Ultra Beasts. Powerful, intimidating Pokemon transported to the Pokemon world from Ultra Space via the Ultra Wormhole. The Ultra Beasts are characterized by their impressive stats and their unique shared ability, Beast Boost. Something else they also all have in common, as of Sun and Moon's release, is that they're all dual-type Pokemon. Except one. Xurkitree has always puzzled me. It's by far my favourite of the Ultra Beasts because I really love its design. I've just never really understood why it's a purely electric type Pokemon. It learns a decent selection of grass type moves, and not to mention it's not only based on electrical wiring, it's also based on a tree. Honestly, if you can't see it, I don't know what's wrong with you. It's right there. It's based on a tree. Plus, it has tree in its name. Do you think it's a coincidence that they spelt it that way? Number 5. As great as it had the potential to be, Mega Absol was a bit of a letdown. Just look at how often you don't see it in battle. I think a trick was missed when it remained pure Dark type. All we were left with was a faster, slightly more powerful Absol with the same defense and special defense. Perhaps adding an extra typing wouldn't necessarily fix the issue, but I feel like adding the flying type since it grows wings, or adding the fairy type to try and make it some kind of threat to dragon Pokemon with stab, play rough for example, would give Mega Absol just that little bit more to shout about. Number 4. Gyarados having the flying type instead of the dragon type is the single dumbest argument I have ever heard. Most people will tell you that the reason that Gyarados has the flying type is because it's based off a traditional Chinese dragon kite, and you can see why. It looks exactly like one. But do you know what a Chinese dragon kite is based on? Chinese f***ing dragon. Number 3. I'm a little bit scared to approach this one. People do not like it when you mess with legendaries, but just hear me out. Mewtwo is cloned from Mew, which is why it makes sense that it's a psychic type. But Mewtwo is also very different from Mew. The humans who created Mewtwo wanted it to be stronger than Mew, and they also wanted to use Mewtwo for their own evil purposes. And as a result of everything that happened to it, Mewtwo hates humans, and it's noted as having no compassion and the most savage heart among Pokemon. So to me, it's the perfect candidate for the Dark type, or as we know it in Japan, the Evil type. And obviously it would keep its Psychic typing because of its psychic power, that's obvious. And to me, this would really set Mewtwo apart from Mew. You could even argue that Mega Mewtwo X becoming part Fighting type is because it's the more aggressive form of Mega Mewtwo, and that Mega Mewtwo Y having pure Psychic typing is because that's Mewtwo becoming more pure like Mew. So this would add to the already incredible story behind Mewtwo. And yes, I know, the Dark type wasn't introduced, much like the Steel type, until Generation 2, but that didn't stop us getting Steel type Magnemite, did it? Number 2. I've talked about this before, but the Flabébé line's typing has always bothered me. Introduced in Generation 6, the debut of the Fairy type, the Flabébé family were given the Fairy type, but only the Fairy type. This has never made sense to me. Not the Fairy typing, that's fine. It's the lack of Grass typing. It's a Pokemon based on a flower, that's holding a flower, that ultimately evolves into a Pokemon based off a Hyacinth, which is a flower. And not to mention it can learn 10 grass type moves, but only 6 fairy type moves. My favourite argument that people give me for Flabébé not being a fairy type is this. But Liam, Flabébé isn't the flower, it's just holding the flower. That's why it's not a grass type. That is the flimsiest reasoning I've ever heard. And what did people used to tell me back in Gen 6? Thing is, Liam, if they gave Flabébé the grass type, it'd be 4 times weak to poison. They'd never do that. Oh, really? Number 1. Why is Lucario a Steel type? In its Pokédex entries, there's no reference to metal of any kind. You know what is mentioned a lot? Aura. And how good Lucario is at sensing it. You know what that sounds like? Some kind of psychic ability? So surely, Lucario should be part fighting and part psychic. It makes sense to me. In fact, Lucario gets the Justified ability, which raises its attack when it's hit by a Dark type move. And currently, Lucario only takes half damage from Dark type moves. Whereas if it was part psychic type, it would take normal damage from Dark type moves, so people would be more likely to use Dark type moves against Lucario, and therefore are more likely to activate the Justified ability, so it would help Lucario. I just don't understand how they could get a Pokemon's typing so wrong. Steel. Why? Answers on a postcard. Now don't forget to leave me a comment letting me know which Pokemon's type you'd change, and remember, this is all a bit of fun. Nothing I've said is going to become a reality in the Pokemon games, so if you do get upset, you're probably just a silly person. Make sure you follow me on Twitter for all my latest updates, and of course subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss one of my videos. But until next time, I'm Ace Trainer Liam. Keep on training.